Let's get ready to rank some teams. We're basically at the midway point of the season. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're looking forward to week number 9 already. And we welcome you to the NFL Power Rankings Show presented by Energizer. From our studios in Los Angeles, my name is Andrew Siciliano. This guy over here is the man who puts together the rankings, the man who sits only a few miles right now from Hallis Hall, where the Bears are trying to figure out why their fans may or may not be happy about a trade of a second-round pick for Montez Sweat. Eric Edholm, happy Tuesday to you.
Good Tuesday. Good trade deadline Tuesday. Lots to talk about today. A lot of movement for this late in the season.
And we have a new number 1 atop the rankings.
Yep.
If you were to get close to your screen right now and scan that QR code and go to NFL.com, you would find the Philadelphia Eagles. Not only the number 1 seed in the NFC, but the number 1 seed in the brand new Eric Edholm, NFL.com power rankings. The Ravens are up 2, the Dolphins are up 2, the Chiefs are down 3. Look at the Jaguars and the Cowboys and the Lions all ahead of the San Francisco 49ers, who are plummeting heading into their bye with their 3rd consecutive loss. We'll get to them coming up shortly. Let's open, however, Eric, with your new number 1, who once again need effort, a lot of effort, to beat Ron Rivera's fighting Washington Commanders. But in the end, A.J. Brown is too much, Jalen Hurts is too much, the secondary does just enough, and they hang on. Why are they the best team in football?
Yeah, well, they certainly have one of the best players in football, and yeah, Hurts would be on that list, but I think A.J. Brown has to be on that list. I don't know if there's an MVP candidate as a quarterback this year who's just running away with the race, so let's have Tyreek Hill in that discussion. Let's have A.J. Brown in that discussion, because if you had seen what he's done the last 6 games, Andrew, including Sunday when he was incredible, I mean, he's carried the team. After, the first couple games, we weren't sure if he was going to have that same role he did last year. He's sort of complaining about touches. No problem anymore. You mentioned that defense, though, right? The secondary is a concern. They'll get Kevin Byard into the mix, and I'm sure he'll help. Reed Blankenship came up with a big play late after he had a tough game, but you have Hassan Reddick to close out games like he did against Washington week 4, like he did against the Rams week 5, and like he did Sunday. It can make up for some mistakes in the first 3 quarters of the game. So they held on. It was tough, but they got it done because of their 2 studs on offense and just enough on defense.
And the composite the last 3 times they have played the Commanders is 94-93. So that guy there, Ron Rivera, has something in his bag where this game is always going to be close with the Eagles. But is there any concern from you, Eric? Like there is concern, I think, from the Philly fan base, that this team may be the number 1 team in football, but they still don't look right. If you're a Philly fan, you're probably forgetting that because James Harden got traded. There's a party in the streets. But are you concerned?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things that could worry you. I mean, Jalen Hurts is playing through left knee pain. There's no guarantee that the secondary is going to fix all their issues. I mean, look, if they don't have a pass rush working, and we assume that group would be the same sort of terrorizing unit they had last year, it's just not as an effective in a group this year. So, there are some pitfalls. We know Dallas could come in Sunday and beat them, and this is a tough division. I mean, I know that, you have teams like the Commanders who can play toe-to-toe with them. The Giants can beat the Commanders. There's a lot of close battles within that division, and you're right. I mean, I think the Eagles look good. I wouldn't say that they look like world beaters at this point, though.
And as you mentioned, they get the Cowboys this week, the first of a scheduled 2, week 14. The game will be in Dallas. So the Eagles are 1. Look at who is number 2, the Baltimore Ravens, future champions presented by FanDuel. What if I told you the Ravens are sitting there at plus 1,200, the 6th best odds to win the entire thing? If you thought they were going to be facing a trap game, a letdown game, whatever, in Arizona this past week after blowing out the Lions, think again. Yeah, they give the Cardinals credit. They hung in there for a little bit, but in the end, Lamar puts his foot on the gas, throws 1-legged touchdown passes, and they pull away.
And really, they didn't need a monster game from Lamar like they saw against Detroit, offensive player of the week and all that. I mean, this week it looked like he was just sort of sitting back, wasn't running all that much, almost in a rocking chair delivering passes to his receivers. So it was a perfect week from that standpoint. Lamar didn't get hit much. He didn't get hurt. He was just able to kind of divvy up the ball and get it to their playmakers. And obviously they're growing offensively, and the score looked a little closer. You'd like to see them avoid those special teams mistakes, missed field goal, couldn't get the onside kick there, or the first of the two onside kicks, I should say. But, all in all, I thought they did their job. They went on the road and took care of an opponent that's been tougher for some teams than you might expect in a 1-17. So, if they can find that run game for 4 quarters, we saw it really flourish late. This is a dangerous team, as we know. I think they're better than the 6th best odds to win the Super Bowl personally, but still got some big games coming up for sure.
I'll say this. I think Lamar Jackson, and the stats may not back me up here, but just look at the tape and look at the throws he makes, look at the patience he has in the pocket, look at the accuracy he has after being patient in the pocket. I think he's playing better than MVP Lamar. He's playing that well. He's living up to the contract. And with all their injuries, with losing J.K. Dobbins right out of the gate, with everything they've dealt with, especially in September on the offensive line, look where they are. They are the 6th best odds right now and the number 2 team in your power rankings. They are ahead of the Dolphins, who are sitting there at 3. The Dolphins have a huge game coming up in Germany on NFL Network and NFL Plus, 9:30 Eastern Time. Guten Morgen to Frankfurt for week number 9, and they face the Kansas City Chiefs, Eric, who are down 3. They were 1, now they are 4, and they look mortal. Almost like that scene in, I think it was Superman 2, what is it, when Clark Kent's in the diner and he punches the dude, he looks at his hand and he's bleeding and he can't figure out how and why.
Right. That's them, I guess. Yeah, I mean, granted, Mahomes was ill this weekend, said he was dealing with some kind of a bug, but it's not like he's been as dialed in as we expect. He's on pace for 17 interceptions, would be a career high. I didn't think he played well Sunday. The offensive line probably had its worst game. They've kept him upright for the most part. That really wasn't the case. How much of Mahomes' mobility was part of that? I don't know the answer, but I do know that his receivers have let him down, and he's let his team down at times. Look, I mean, I hate to say it because I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL, all things considered, but lately it just hasn't been quite the same. Maybe it is going to take a trip overseas to kind of clear out the system a little bit. We saw Jacksonville do that and really kind of kickstart their season. Kansas City's won plenty of games. I'm not saying they're in dire trouble. I'm just saying all of a sudden things don't look quite right, and they've got to fix it.
Yeah, they do have to fix it, and this is a great game on an international stage. I mean, this would be a headlining game wherever it was played, whether it's Miami or Kansas City. It's going to be played in Frankfurt. We're thrilled that this game is on NFL Network and NFL Plus. It's going to be fantastic. It is one of those that, yes, is very much worth getting up early and rearranging your Sunday schedule to see. The Chiefs are 4, the Jaguars are 5. They are on a bye. The Cowboys are up 2, and as they prepare to go to Philly, Eric, they do so off a resounding victory here. I mean, just they blew the doors off the Rams. Everything went their way in the first quarter. Could have had a 3-and-out early, but the penalty took back an Aaron Donald sack. And then they just cruised. I mean, they look better, honestly, than the number 16.
Yeah, this was their most complete performance of the season, arguably. I mean, they've won by bigger margins. We saw the blowout in week 1. We saw them dominate the Jets in week 2 at home. But it was offense, it was defense, it was special teams. And I don't know that you could pick one unit that was better than the rest. Maybe the offense, right? This was the group that we probably said was the one kind of, I don't want to say weakness, but the one sort of shortcoming they had, because every week you didn't know what to expect out of the pass game. The run game's been inconsistent. But Dak and CeeDee Lamb, to me, I want to get your opinion on it, but that's as dialed in as I can remember them. And if they can become that pair that really threatens defenses, I think it makes them a whole different animal to deal with. So we saw that, especially in that second quarter blitz. They looked like a Super Bowl caliber team, at least for 20 minutes of the game there.
And they took advantage of some pretty inexperienced, some young Rams corners, and
Sure.
to their credit, they ate. And Matthew Stafford got knocked out. He wasn't playing in the second half, at least after the 2-point conversion. Brett Rippon all the way. And they kept their foot on the gas. And now they go to Philadelphia, and I said they look better than the number 6 team. Eric, I'm not going to hold you to this, but what happens if they beat your number 1 team, the Eagles, on Sunday?
Presents an interesting situation, doesn't it? I mean, we've got this glut of 6-2 teams in the AFC, but what about the NFC side? San Francisco's fallen out of it now. Philly is kind of the one team left standing with the 1 loss, but if Dallas beats them and kind of puts the ghost of San Francisco behind them, all of a sudden you take this team a lot more seriously, and they'd be in the running for number 1 next week, depending on how they play.
All right, let's fast forward a bit. We have the Lions at 7. They are heading into a bye after their big win on Monday night. And if you look at the schedules here, and we have the whole second half of the season to break this one down, I think the Lions have a clear path to the number 1 seed in the NFC because their schedule sets up nicely, I think, compared to the gauntlet the Eagles have in the second half of the season. Then we get to the 49ers at number 8. They're heading into a bye with a 3-game losing streak. And let's pull the curtain back on when we prepared this show. All right, this is in the middle of the trade deadline Tuesday. Eric, I'm breaking news to you. The 49ers, according to our Ian Rappaport, have just traded for Chase Young. In exchange, they're sending Washington a compensatory 3. You have the Niners at 8, again, a 3-game losing streak, but they are now adding Chase Young to put on the other side of Nick Bosa.
Not bad, right? I mean, Bosa's admitted that his contract situation is holding. Probably has cost him a little juice early in the season as he ramps up. You know, they went out and got Randy Gregory. They drafted Drake Jackson last year. I mean, they've thrown a lot of assets at that position, but it hasn't really resulted in the kind of pressure they expect. I mean, Hargrave helps inside. So just another piece. It's becoming more and more like what we saw with the Eagles last year, where they can mix and match, you know, kick guys inside if need be on passing down. So, yeah, Chase Young has played well this year. Motivated, wanting that contract, you know, possibly wanting to be moved. This is a fascinating spot, and the Niners are kind of taking a page out of the Rams book here. Let's use our draft assets to get players.
Yeah, and they've had so many compensatory 3s over the last couple of years.
Right.
They can flip those picks now that you can trade compensatory 3s. It used to be that you couldn't, and normally a compensatory 3 is right around pick like 102 to 110 in that window. The Niners the last couple of weeks have had trouble, even with all that talent you just listed, getting to the opposing quarterback. Now you add Chase Young, look out. And also look for NFL Films. Inside the NFL had a great thing this week where Nick Bosa hugs it out with his former college teammate, Joe Burrow, after the game and said, great game, but man, our bye week is now going to be a bleep because of you with the 3-game losing streak. Well, now they've added Chase Young, and we have 32 teams to rank. 8 of them are down. Coming up next on the NFL Power Ranking Show, if you have not seen your team, where is your team? The big unveil continues. All right, you're watching the NFL Power Ranking Show presented to you by Energizer. The Buffalo Bills after a TNF victory. And the mini bye are number 9, followed by the Seahawks, who just beat the Browns, who are 12. In between them, the Bengals, who are 11, who won in San Francisco. The Jets somehow pulled that off. The Saints, the Steelers, and the Houston Texans. Everybody, let's open up here. Eric Edholm with the Seahawks. They not only beat the Browns, on Monday they added Leonard Williams, giving the Giants, among other things, a 2. Tell me why, for you, they're a top 10 team now leading the NFC West.
Well, certainly adding Williams is a big deal. I mean, they've tried to bolster that front. Now you've got this sort of weird manifest destiny thing happening with Chase Young going to San Francisco, Williams, both guys leaving the NFC East, going to the NFC West. And, both the 49ers and Seahawks struggled offensively Sunday. I mean, the Seahawks were able to get it done thanks to their defense kind of clamping down late, but adding more firepower now. The hope is that the pressure's off Geno Smith a little bit. He hasn't been the same level of effectiveness as last year, but the run game still works. They've kind of weathered their O-line issues. So, look, it was a good win Sunday. Were they a little bit lucky? Absolutely. But sitting atop the NFC West all of a sudden, the 49ers kind of in a little mini free fall. They have to feel good about their position, even with some tough games ahead. I mean, Baltimore, Dallas, 2 against the Niners, lot to accomplish still.
Yeah, the way the balance of power shifts within a couple of minutes in the division there, with P.J. Walker throwing that pick on 3rd and 3, could have ended the game. Browns could have beaten the Seahawks there, and then with Logan Wilson's pick and with the Brock Purdy turnovers there at the same time as the Niners were battling the Bengals, and then bam, the next morning you trade for Leonard Williams, and the Seahawks go, "Yep, we truly are all in." The Seahawks there at 10. The Bengals are at 11. And the Bengals are our team of the week, presented by Truist. We've seen this movie before, Eric. The people in Cincinnati always hate the beginning of the movie, but they love the middle of the movie, where they get up off the mat and play really good football. And they're back.
Yeah, this is it right here. They're getting to the good part of the movie right now. Joe Burrow may have been down and out, but I don't know who they got behind the scenes, Mr. Miyagi with the hands together or something like that. If you had any questions about whether his calf was okay after last week, it was certainly answered Sunday. I don't know, it was about 5 or 6 plays into the game. He wiggles out of a sack, throws Eric Armstead down, shakes Bosa, and drills a dime to T. Higgins on the sideline. I mean, that was just like, okay. Not only is he back, but the team is back. The offense has its swagger. Higgins has been up and down. He's now rolling along pretty well. Chase is dominant. Even Joe Mixon, too. I mean, that was a big story coming into the game, was his lack of effectiveness. Ground game wasn't adding much. So they checked off a ton of boxes in that game. Played great situational defense, Andrew. The 3 turnovers all kind of deep in their zone. That's what Lou Anarumo has sort of become known for. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's just trending in the right direction. I was giving them that sort of leap of faith, putting them at 18 or 20 when they were still below 500. Don't have to worry about those excuses anymore.
Yeah, he's got his swagger back, and Lou Anarumo's defense. Yeah, you want to go assistant of the week? I'll go Lou Anarumo for the way his defense played, and they went into Santa Clara. Yeah, the Niners had a short week, and Purdy didn't practice all week. But Kyle laid down the gauntlet on Monday night on the podium after they lost in Minnesota. Said it right then and there before they got back on the plane. We need to win this week. Right? Didn't call it a must win. He said, we need to win this week. We cannot go into the bye losing 3 in a row. And they go into the bye losing 3-0. So the Bengals are sitting there at 11. The Browns fall 2. They are 12. They have a major quarterback issue. The Jets have a quarterback issue that they somehow battled through and won again. And they beat the Giants. They beat the Giants when this game was over in a downpour without anyone in the interior of their offensive line. I don't know how they did it, but Eric, they have won 3 in a row, and you have them above the playoff line at 13.
Look, it wasn't pretty. Style points put them to the side, right? They probably should have lost that game. I think
they did lose that game for all intents and purposes, except they didn't.
I think they had a 0.2% chance to win it at one point, but they found one of the 0.2s in there and got it done. I mean, obviously the Giants kind of helped them out quite a bit there at the end. But, you at the end of the season, we'll look back, and that's just a W. I mean, they're going to have to find ways to scrap through anyway. We've known that since the 4th play of the season when Aaron Rodgers went out. It looked a little better prior to that, but I wasn't shocked. I thought the Giants would give them a hard time, and good defenses are going to kind of lean into them a little bit. We'll see. I mean, it's a little scary. They had to go to overtime to beat a team with negative passing yards, but yeah, and there's some big games coming up. Buffalo, Miami, etc. This weekend against the Chargers, another team kind of desperate in the same spot they are. it's a little bit of a step back for me, even though they move up one spot.
I mean, looking at that field goal again, thought Greg Zuerlein missed it when it went off.
Right.
Yeah, it
I did too.
Looked like he missed it. Give Zach Wilson credit. He made the throws down 24. Truly. I don't know which win was more improbable, that one or the one in September last year with Joe Flacco when they were down, 3 scores in the fourth quarter in Cleveland. They had the onside kick. It was their first onside kick they recovered since the 90s, and they won that game. This one actually seemed even more improbable. The Saints are sitting there at 14, Eric. They are making power moves presented by Energizer. I don't know how you have them here because I don't know that they passed the eye test.
I
but
know.
They had their best offensive performance of the year in Indianapolis.
Yep. Yeah, every week, Andrew, I sit there in that kind of 13 to 18 range and say, who am I going to over-promote this week? And in this case, it was the Saints, right? It just feels like there is a drop-off, and it's not even rankings, even sort of positioning from one number to the next. And this is really where the drop-off happens, 13, 14, and on. And look, I mean, defensively, they got kind of run over a little bit by the Colts, but when you have your best offensive game, as you mentioned, Taysom Hill stepped out, Alvin Kamara, Rashid Shaheed, Derek Carr had one of his best games, and the offensive line wasn't killed. To me, that's a win. You can fix the run defense. That's what they really needed, I thought.
Derek Carr wasn't killed. That's a win. And they did win. And now the Colts have dropped 3 in a row despite playing pretty well at times here without Anthony Richardson. All right, coming up, the Minnesota Vikings found a way to win, but they lost their quarterback. Where are they now that they've traded for Josh Dobbs? It's coming up next on your NFL Power Rankings presented by Energizer. NFL Power Ranking Show presented by Energizer. 17 through 24 has Atlanta, the Chargers, the Vikings, the Buccaneers up to 20, and then the Rams, the Titans, the Colts, and the Broncos to 24. Let's talk about the Vikings at home because you hate what happened to Kirk Cousins. Out for the year,
Yep.
Achilles, playing his best football. But now they go out and they get Josh Dobbs, who likely is not going to play, likely going to be the rookie Jaron Hall this week for Kevin O'Connell. How do you find a place for them now?
Tough. I sort of vacillated there, put them up a little higher out of respect, right? They've won 3 out of 4 games. Jefferson's coming back in a couple weeks. The defense has tightened up. Like, a lot of good things have happened. And you mentioned Cousins. He'd been playing so well. This all of a sudden was looking like a dangerous team until that Achilles injury. And you've got 1 week of Hall, likely Dobbs if he can stay healthy the rest of the way. If he comes in the same sort of preparation that he did with Arizona, they're going to be in decent shape. And maybe he kickstarts that run game a little bit that's been dormant. They've sort of, shuffle guys in and try to figure out the best combo. So I guess I'm mildly optimistic in the sense that even though Dobbs' play had leveled off, he could come in pretty strong in Arizona and inject some life into that offense.
Yeah, I'm a big Josh Dobbs fan here, but the fact is he's on his 5th team in 11 months. If you include 2 trips to Cleveland, it's his 6th team in 11 months. But the fact is he's probably a better option right now than the rookie Jaron Hall, whose future is bright. Puka Nakua's quarterback at BYU. That's how
right.
he is now known. All right, Buccaneers, Rams, and then the Titans sitting there at 22. I think they found their quarterback. Will Levis, well done. Even though you eat mayonnaise, that was a heck of a start.
I'm a Mayo guy, but I wasn't always a Levis guy, Andrew. I mean, look, I looked at the film of his 2021 season, liked a lot of it. Watched last year, wasn't all that impressed. And the biggest things for me, decision-making, poise, accuracy, maybe health factored in a little, but that's to me why he dropped out of the first round. But none of that was evident on Sunday. I thought he looked terrific against a defense that's been a top 10 unit statistically this season. So he threw the scouting report out the window, got Hopkins involved, put some life into this team that's been so dormant. Kudos to him. And if he can get it done on a short week this week, very impressive stuff. I really like what I saw week 1, or his first game, I should say.
Absolutely. Great stuff from Jeffrey Simmons as well, who is mic'd up.
Oh, yeah.
Just yelling like, that is our guy. That kid can play. All right, the rest of the rankings for those desperate to see their teams here on the bottom quarter. We got the Packers, the Raiders, the Commanders, who are trading away both Montez Sweat and Chase Young, followed by the Patriots, the Bears, the Giants, the Carolina Panthers, and the Arizona Cardinals. All right, Arizona bringing up the rear despite the fact that, look, they fight every week here. And Kyler Murray is knocking on the door, but he is not there yet. As always, send all your mail to Eric at home. Find him on Twitter and find the rankings on NFL.com. Eric, we're halfway there. We're through week 8. Have a great one, everybody. See you week 9.